Okay, welcome back again. Now that we've got, for the most part, the subframe all stripped down to the bare parts, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about. This is one of the upper control arms. Now these bolt bushings on the ends of these are on about 4 or 5 of these out of the 8. Were on extremely tightly, to the point where it was almost like I doubted they were going to unscrew, you know, unless I introduced heat. But before I did any heat, I clamped this in the vise. Now, you want a vise, I've got a very large jaw vise down in the workshop that clamps it. You want to clamp it as close to this point as possible. You don't want to just clamp it here and here, because the amount of force that you're putting on this, it puts a tremendous stress on this frame. So you want to clamp it as close to that as possible to minimize the flex on this, because I'm thinking you could distort this and screw it up. And you know, you can still get these, but they're asking a pretty penny for them. So anyway, so I clamped it as close in a very long jaw vise, as close to there as possible. And the socket, it's 32mm, yeah, 32mm socket on a breaker bar. Now this breaker bar wasn't even doing it. It was getting to the point where it was just, I couldn't put any more force on it. So I put a piece of piping, extended the bar so much, and then just very gradually brought up the pressure, and then pow, it just went. I thought it was such a noise, it broke a socket, but it didn't. It just broke it free. So like I say, mainly is to keep that supported. Don't let any flex happen to that control arm on either one. I had this problem on the lower one on that side as well, probably down to non-lubrication and just age and everything. On one that I cleaned up, I didn't even bother taking it off, because I was able to clean out the little lubrication chamber, make sure it's clean and it's fine. But I took these two off, so that's one thing. So let's get started on the main subframe yoke. We've got it all cleaned off. I'm going to scrape all the worst of it off, power wash it, scrape it, power wash it, and then I'm going to use a stripper on to get most of the paint off. That will also help remove grease that's on top of the paint, so it'll all wash off. And then I'm going to use my little rotating wire brush tool to clean it all up. So let's get started on that. Right, stripped all the subframe down now. It's completely down to its bare shell. Let me just get the screen out here so I can see if you're in view. Yeah, so it's stripped down to bare shell, taking everything off. And what I did, just to kind of save on time, I used just a paint scraper to scrape all the muck and the grease, because there's obviously years of caked on mud and there's tons of it that comes off. You know, rather than saturating it with degreaser, that's just going to sit on the mud, isn't it? So I'm getting all the worst off, and now we're down to the metal, and I can use a brush and more gunk cleaner to get it all off. And then I'll take my my wire brush attachment on my air tool to clean all this old paint and corrosion off in all the crooks and crevices. And then I'll give it a coat of probably a rust encapsulator first, and an epoxy primer or something, you know, I haven't figured out yet. But then the chassis black to get it all sealed up. So yeah, it looks in pretty good shape. A little bit of tiny surface corrosion on some of the air towers, you know, where the towers are. I showed you that in the last section, but I'm just taking my time to get it all cleaned up. I say this weighs about 50 pounds, I reckon, just to all strip down, just for your reference. One of the tower mounts here was heavily corroded, and even after I took the bolt out, it took some quite hard wraps with the mallet, the rubber mallet, to get it out. I did saturate it down there with some WD-40 to break through the rust, left it overnight, and it soon worked its way free. So say all the nut mounts here are good. These I'll take off in a minute. These little buffer things here, I'll put new ones. They seem okay, but while you're at it, might as well put new ones. Now that I've degreased it all, there's still a little bit of grease here and there. So what I'm going to do is try something a little different, because it's a little big to get in the degreasing tank to finish it off. So obviously because it's been repainted, so I'm going to just use some stripper on one side of it, see how it gets it off, because obviously the stripper will take the paint and anything above it off, so it'll get back to bare metal pretty pronto. So let me get the camera over and I'll show you. So I've coated the left side with stripper, let it bite for a few minutes. It's not like the old aircraft stripper, so it's not quite as powerful, but because this has got a very thin coat of paint on it, it should work fine. So I'll let that bite for a few minutes and see how it goes, and then we can just power wash it off, and obviously do this outside because it's kind of stinky stuff, even though it's not the old methylene chloride stuff. So let's get this cranked up, and it will probably work quite well, I think. Too bad. It's gotten a good portion of it off, as you can see. I'll dry that off because this is a water washable one, and it would, if I just painted more on it, wouldn't really work well. So I'll dry it off and then hit it and let it cook on a little bit longer, and then that should do the trick. Obviously it's getting all the grease off as well, so which is nice. Something very satisfying about doing that tool, that wire brush removal tool. It works amazing. It's great because you can rotate and twist it to get in all those little crooks and crannies of that are kind of tricky to get to, but it's cleaning up nice. I've switched from I went with a coarse one on the bottom side because it was I hadn't stripped that very much or at all really, and that stripped that paint off. Don't know whether that was a very necessary step really to using the stripper, but it washed it off pretty good. Get that off, and then I can go straight to the medium brush, which I did on the other side as well. Now I'm just going to a stripping wheel, which is that kind of like Rice Krispie looking thing, just to kind of give it a finish ready for any epoxy resin that I might be using, or rust encapsulator, stuff like that. So it's come out real nice. I'll get a close-up shot. You'll see the difference from the wire brush to this, and it really brings it up a nice finish actually. So I've done that side. All stripped down and conditioned with the conditioning wheel, the stripping wheel I should say, you know, that Rice Krispie looking thing. So I'm going to de-wax it, wax and grease remover here, just to give it a little wipe over. Helps get a little bit of grime out of the corners where I couldn't get, you know, but generally that wheel gets everywhere. So it took about a good hour and a half to strip it with that wheel, maybe hour 45 I was going at it. The machine works really well because it's an air tool, it doesn't get hot, which is nice. You use that to get in those corners. I'll bring you closer in a minute. You can see where there's some spatter, weld spatter, from where they welded these receiving nuts on for the upper control arm. Some acid etch on it. Like I say, this will preserve it from flash rusting. Just coat that up, give it a wipe over, and it leaves a phosphorus coating on it. But it smells like eggs, it does. Then I don't have to rush to worry about getting it all painted up. I know that it's preserved. This is what I did to the underside of the car. Just give that a wipe over. Also, if this does get a surface rust on it, or any metal really, this stuff will take it off, no problem. Before you paint it, you do have to get this etching stuff off with a degreaser, cleaner. Right, that'll do. That's giving it a basic coating. Like I say, I'm not leaving it outside, of course, so it'll be indoors, but I'll give you a little panning shot. You can see here, see the welding spatter here. See? See how nice it's come up. Punch number 4 there, engraved into the frame. Cleaning it up this way, you see, then you can get to check if there's any, you know, obviously any cracks in some of the vulnerable areas, you know. Give it a thorough inspection. But this is in lovely shape. Now more welding spatter there, look. Probably from the factory. There you go. One of the members on the group suggested that I measure between the two towers of the subframe, between those two mounting receiving nuts on each side where the upper control arm goes, and it has to be 806 millimeters. That's 31.72 inches, and it is smack on, which is just awesome. It's in great shape. In the meantime, also I cleaned up one of the control arms. See, that came out beautiful. This is the one where that nut's still in there, and it's all cleaned out, so no reason to take that out. I'll just make sure all the gunk's out there, flushed out, and yeah, it's kind of coming up beautiful, this whole system. This is the lower control arm. I was having a lot of difficulty getting these bolt bushings out. Let's see if I've got one. I'll show you. Around here somewhere. Let me take this one out and I'll show you. Oops. Right, so it's threaded on the outside and on the inside, where this pivots. Again, all very old, barely any grease in there actually. I don't know whether you can even see it. You know, that's greased from the underside here, and supposed to lubricate this joint here, so very dry, you can feel it. So let me get the other side out. Yeah, these don't look in bad shape though. Okay, so get that guy out. Here's the seal again, see? My trusty toothpick. So yeah, it's just an empty chamber essentially. So that pumps in the zerk fitting along here and then pumps all the lubricant into this chamber where this guy is. Okay, so that keeps that lubricated, and then obviously the seal stops it all getting all over the place. Pretty simple, nice little design. I think they're in good shape. I don't see any problem areas, just not been lubricated properly for a while, but no obvious damage. But once we clean it up, we'll get to see more clearly. again, like I say, this is just like a little chamber. I've taken the Zerk fitting off and fills up with grease lubrication. Again, dry as a bone in there. Take this guy out. I'll let these soak in some cleaning solution. Good enough for Chuck's boat. Get all these cleaned up. Should have enough cleaner to do that. I don't know about you, but I got a parts cleaner over here, and I went down to buy some parts cleaner liquid, you know, and I assumed they would have one that's non-flammable, but apparently they don't. So there's something about putting 5 gallons of highly flammable material in a big tank and being around it. I opted not to do that, so I bought that purple power stuff and are soaking some of the less important things in that, because there's no way. I don't mind dealing with small amounts, but 5 gallons of highly flammable liquid in a tank, forget about it. So let me get the other ones in there. I'll buy all new Zerk fittings, these little angle ones, might as well. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 seals on these guys. That's a 7. One of these is still on the control arm over there, but that's clean as a whistle, so I'm not going to bother. Now, this is the lower kingpin bolt. I'm going to clean it up, but I may well end up, well, I just don't see the point of replacing that because it seems fine, but I'm going to clean it, do a little research. There are the seals, there's the nut. Here's the lower kingpin trunnion, I guess you call it. Funny name that, isn't it? Trunnion. Anyway, get that seal out. That's this bolt is that one off the other side. It's got a seal either side. Yeah, reuse that. I don't see why not. Quite a big to do about removing the kingpin. And this thing came out easy as pie. There was no play with it at all. It's just, like I say, burned and dry grease on it. Little nut at the bottom here, slid straight out. So there's sleeve bushings inside here, top and bottom, and as long as I'm going to clean this up and see how it plays, you know, I'm going to do these individually because I want to make sure we keep them, I'm assuming to keep these matched to each side, because they're probably worn in different ways, but I'll check it. Yeah, they made quite a deal about removing this. It was a terrible job, but maybe I'm missing something that you're all going to tell me, oh, you Wally, look, you've missed this, but we'll see. I'll do this in a later thing. I'm just going to soak these for the moment. Got some of this stuff kicking around. Fuel injector cleaner, but that'll do the trick. Plus, I'm not dealing with huge quantities here. And I'll put this out in a safe area with a lid over the top. Still highly flammable. That would ruin your day if that went up. So, there we have it. Get all that soaking in there nicely. What I'll do is I'm going to store this in my chemical tank with a lid over the top for safety. I'm not sure in the upcoming videos we're going to jump back on probably that steering box, you know, where it attaches to the frame. We'll have a clean up of that using the same wire brush attachment, see what's going on with that guy. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Please hit subscribe and the like button and the bell icon, and I will see you in the next one.